in 1995 when Wishbone debuted. It was a glorious time. One of the things that remains true about the show that we did back in the day is that no one had ever attempted anything like it before, and certainly no one has ever attempted anything like it since. It was hard. It was hard to do. And I think that effort could only have paid off in the world of public broadcasting because they were the ones who said yes. Everyone
Sure.
else thought it was a crazy idea. And, crazy ideas have a way of hanging on and not going away and turning out to be awesome. So, PBS will forever be in my heart for being the home to the show, which it was for the duration of its run.
All right, guys, I am going to talk about you behind your back in front of your face for 30 seconds, do a quick intro, and we're going to go for it here. So let me pull up my script. One moment. All right, here we go. All righty, guys, welcome back to Left of Straight Show interviews. Today, we're stepping back into one of the most wonderfully unlikely success stories in children's television, Wishbone, the 1995 PBS series that used a charming Jack Russell Terrier to introduce a generation of kids to classic literature. There's a new documentary coming out, What's the Story, Wishbone? And my three guests today are director of the documentary, Joey Stewart, producer of the original series, Betty Buckley, and the voice of Wishbone himself, Larry Brantley, who are all producers of the documentary as well. And because Wishbone was born in a very different PBS era, I thought this conversation also lands at a powerful moment with public broadcasting facing direct political pressure in 2025, including an executive order aimed at cutting funding at NPR and PBS. So lots to talk about today, but welcome, guys. How are you?
Good.
Great, Scott. Thanks for having us on.
Well, I appreciate having you guys. We don't have a lot of time. This is such a remarkable documentary. The series was beloved by many. We're talking, what, 45, 50 episodes, and still remembered fondly to this day. And speaking of that, Joey, I mean, we're 30 years past this. What makes this the right time to revisit the series in a documentary?
Well, you said it. It's the 30-year anniversary of the first airing on PBS, which was in October of 95. So within that 30th year, we thought this was the right time to tell the story. The fans are still just wild about everything Wishbone. We're friends and family with the same cast and crew we have been for the same 30 years. So we said, why not? This is the right time to tell the story, and they want to hear it.
I love that. And Betty, for you, I mean, on paper, this is kind of almost absurd, right? A dog teaches kids classic literature. Take us back to 1995. Why did Wishbone feel possible at PBS? And why do you think it works so beautifully?
It's interestingly enough, it was fresh and new and exciting, and we didn't know if it would work, but we thought it would. And sure enough, it did. We just kind of created this bubble that we worked in making the show, and we put together an amazing team, cast and crew and dog trainers and everybody you can imagine, and it just worked. I think I did focus on hiring people that they either had children or loved animals. And then, we had a wonderful casting director, had this idea of the company, an amazing writer, head writer, showrunner Stephanie Simpson, her team. So it just worked. And we were all just so excited for the opportunity. I think that passion is partly what came through. And the big part is the dog.
Yeah, it's such an amazing feat what the trainer was able to do with Wishbone. I mean, and I remember throughout the documentary, all the fellow actors said this is a fellow actor with him. So I think that's a huge testament to the trainers and to Wishbone, also lovely known as Soccer, who unfortunately left us a few years ago. But Larry, I mean, you're a 25-year-old young actor going in for a voice work audition for a dog, not really knowing what to have. How did you get this excitement and how did you kind of find your voice and keep it through 45 plus episodes?
I think for me, the most important thing was never to try and find a voice for the dog. I think for me, the most important aspect of that process was trying to find and lock in on the personality of the dog. And if you can successfully do that, then everything follows from that. And I don't want to spoil it because I know you've seen the screener, but there was that moment in my callback audition where, serendipitously, I was able to basically improvise my entire audition as opposed to reading the copy that they had handed me. And it was in that moment. And please keep in mind, I was the least experienced voice actor on that callback by a country mile. So I was acting from intuition and instinct, not from experience. And in that moment, the only thing I was trying to do was literally vocalize what I thought must be going through Soccer's head at that moment. And that was the key for me to unlocking the dog's personality. And so maintaining that voice was really no problem at all. Once I had gotten into his head, so to speak, and I did that through a combination of observing him every day on set, but also really paying attention to the scripts that Stephanie Simpson and her team were throwing at us every week. It became just second nature. And so once that happens, now you're free as an actor to start looking for those moments of play, right? You're not worried about how he's going to sound as long as he sounds authentic and energetic and true to what we're seeing on camera. Now came those moments for play and improvisation that I think were another big integral part to his character.
I love that, and that scene of your second audition is amazing. Seeing you put in your doghouse, so to speak, for that, and being on set. There's a lot of great tips and tricks that Joey was able to share, so I love that. But I mean, all three of you were original. I mean, Larry, you were original voice. Joey, you were first AD on it, and Elizabeth, Becky, you were producer. Talk to me about what was maybe the most challenging part here? Was it the dog? Was it the budget? Was it pulling this all together? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this. What seemed to be most difficult at the time? And looking back on it, what's remembered most fondly, Joey?
I think, well, it was just a huge task. Everything you said is valid. But at the time we were so young, and you probably saw it in the movie, we didn't realize what a huge task it was. We were just young. I was just trying not to get fired, and I was trying to have a career. So it was really just this huge undertaking of everybody getting together. For me, it was trying to get the script on Monday, trying to figure out what we had 4 more days to get everything ready, to get with the dog trainers, to talk to the director and the trainers about what we wanted Soccer to do in 4 days on the next upcoming shoot, working with the set designers, the casting directors, the kids, how long they could work, trying to figure out, okay, they got to go to school. They can only work a certain amount of hours. They got to go to lunch. They got to have play. They got to have rest. How do you schedule that and be ready when the sets are ready? And then the sets need to get broken down so they can be built for the next episode in the following week. So it's just this huge task that I don't think we realized at the time, or I didn't.
Betty, what was your biggest kind of maybe headache looking back and biggest joy looking back?
Headache. Well, actually, I do remember in the second season we were building out our back lot, and the raining. And so I could barely relax on the weekends. I remember I was over at my mother's one week and it started to rain and I started to cry.
Oh no.
And she went out and gave me this like heirloom ring, like, here's your power. The joy was all of it. The joy was that it worked. The joy was that it was a team that really we found our rhythm. We created Wishbone by having Larry and Soccer in the set at the same time. So that became sort of magic for the actors. And I have said this before, but I remember some days getting out of my car, especially at the back lot, going, wow, this is my job. So yes, it was hard, but we had an amazing team and departments all working really hard to make it work. The writing was probably the hardest. That's a lot of scripts, and we had a runway at the very beginning that kinda ran out. So they just Stephanie and her team perform miracles. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. And when viewers watch it, they're going to see the turnaround from 5 episodes to 40 and what that entails, because that is a lot of work, I can only imagine. Larry, for you, talk to me for a second. I mean, there's different ages of children's level. This is more 6 to 11, so a little older, but they're still young. Did you have any idea at the time when you were thinking about it that you would be introducing these kids to like the Odyssey or Sherlock Holmes? The writers didn't skip away from doing the hard stuff as well as the fun parts of all this literature too. What was that like for you?
I was really fortunate at the beginning of pre-production after I had been cast, or actually I think it was technically before I had finally been cast. Stephanie wanted to meet, and she was already assembling like Mo Rocca, and I think Vincent was in that group at the time. So I got together one last time after that the callback audition that we talk about in the film, and I was sitting in a room with all these writers and Rick and Betty, and I think Bert might have been there too, our DP, and they just basically started throwing scripts at me and wanting to see how I would play any given scene. So I was thrown a Shakespeare, I was thrown a Sherlock, I was thrown Oliver Twist, I was thrown a Twain. And in every instance, I was reading these for the first time, but I was getting a glimpse into how important it was for them that we stay true to the source material. And also, and this was key, that I very quickly learned that Stephanie Simpson's hard and fast rule was we will never write down to kids. And once I realized that they were as serious about that as I was about finding the dog's personality, it sort of unlocked a lot of availability for me as an actor. And so, because once you know where the universe begins and ends, but anywhere within that universe, you are free to play, sir. And so that's what I started doing. It was a really joyous experience to create this character over time with the help of these great writers, with the help of Jackie Captain and her crew as animal trainers, and just by sitting back and observing soccer on a day-to-day basis. And again, locking in on that personality was so key for me. And then as we got later into the first season, you could sort of tell in the writing that this was going to be a moment where I was going to get the opportunity to maybe do something fun or have a little playful moment. Those moments actually more often than not came from when soccer would do something on camera. He would for no particular reason turn and look directly into camera, and that to me always looked like breaking the fourth wall or something funny, endearing, whatever that was captured on film that was not scripted. And so the director would always want to leave that scene in, and then it was up to me and Stephanie to figure out how that plays in the scene or if it does. So I was lucky from the get-go to be able to be a part of that process.
Nice. And Joey, like I said, you were first AD throughout the entire series, but now you're making this documentary and you're looking back 30 years with 2020 hindsight glasses. Was there any stories you heard that even surprised you that were kind of fun to learn about 30 years later?
Uh, just the undertaking of the development process before I even got to be part of the team of the great pains they went through to create this story and to come up with the material and how to choose how they chose the dog. I just came on when everything was ready and they said, here are the scripts. Go get it shot. So yeah, it was really that whole lead up to how it became what it became. That was what was cool to learn about that I didn't know about.
Nice. And Betty, talk to me here. I mean, what do you think that Wishbone gave children that today's algorithm driven entertainment definitely does not when you look at from them to now? What do you think were some of the special moments there that you can't see today?
I love that question. I hope this is a good answer. I'll just tell you what made me think of. I think a lot of children, because PBS is a safe destination, one of the safest destinations on television for parents, to it's like okay to watch the television. I think Wishbone was kind of their after school friend, is their buddy. I think and relatable, and there were themes and that were, that continue to this day. I think he was I think he was that. And in the algorithm driven world, I was telling someone the other day, I teach at the university level, and my students are quite aware that this thing right here is a problem, and that it takes too much of their time. And I think, so any kind of anything like our documentary that can pull people away from screens and re-engaging with reading and things like that, I think would be really positive, outcome for the film.
Yeah, I love that. And just in my research, I mean, you talk about college age kids, they were enjoying it almost as much as the kids. You had a very diverse audience, which is fantastic. I love that. And then, like, I kind of teased a little bit in the intro here. In 95, PBS felt like a real trusted classroom. It was like the library, it was an imagination machine. And now the documentary you're making that through all this turmoil that's happening, it's got to feel a little bit like a love letter or maybe a warning or both. Talk about what we lose when public media is being politically attacked and defunded, Larry.
I'm not a political person at all, Scott, but I will say that I think in this world, this weird world in which we get to be storytellers, everything is cyclical. And I do think that what goes around comes around. In 1995, when Wishbone debuted, it was a glorious time. One of the things that remains true about the show that we did back in the day is that no one had ever attempted anything like it before, and certainly no one has ever attempted anything like it since. It was hard. It was hard to do, and I think that effort could only have paid off on, in the world of public broadcasting because they were the ones who said yes. Everyone else thought it was a crazy idea. And, crazy ideas have a way of hanging on and not going away and turning out to be awesome. So, PBS will forever be in my heart for being the home to the show, which it was for the duration of its run. And, as far as where it is today, it's certainly not what it was. Nothing is what it is. I now have a very gray beard. I
You
do,
get
however, firmly believe that everything in this weird world of storytelling is cyclical. So I expect there will come a day, maybe not tomorrow, next week, or even next year, where we will be back and public broadcast will be back. And it might look a little different, but I think the core values will still be there. It'll still be a place where families can go to see quality programming. I don't ever think there'll be another show like the one that we were fortunate enough to work on. I just don't know, with technology being what it is and people's reliance on it so much, I just don't know that that'll be the case. Now, I would love to be proven wrong about that. One of my favorite documentary films is called Sound City from 2011, produced and directed by Dave Grohl, where he talks about growing up in Nirvana, and they recorded in the studio in Venice, California, on a 2-inch tape analog track, and then digital came along, and everybody went digital. Sound City stayed the same, and now people are trying to get back to the simplicity of that because while the technology may be simpler, it actually forces you to be a better artist because you can't fix mistakes on tape. And
right.
and we shot on film. There was no fixing it in post, right? If you messed up a take, you had to go back and do another take. So it forced, excuse me, all of us to be better actors, better camera operators, better sound designers, like everything. And again, who else but public broadcast would be willing to go, yeah, that's an expensive, crazy idea. Let's try it.
Well said. Guys, we're running out of time. We have short shift today, but I will try to get you all back 'cause there's a lot of stuff I want to talk to each about personally. I want to finish it up today with about 1 minute each with my final question. If Wishbone were speaking to kids today, what classic story would you like him to jump into first?
Well,
Betty, do you have one you've been thinking of?
Go, Joey.
well, I got put on the spot. Well, right behind me is what I grew up with, which is a first edition of Dracula that my parents had.
Oh,
So
nice.
I don't know how that would go over, but as a story that I've been passionate about since I was a kid, I'd love to see Dracula.
Horror's huge, say the parents would watch if nobody else. Larry?
Uh, the one that I had always wanted to do, the one that I actually pitched hard to Stephanie Simpson, was Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And she was so patient with me, and she just patted me on the shoulder and she goes, "Oh, honey, we will never have the budget for that show." She goes, "It's a brilliant story, and I can totally see it. It's never going to happen." So she let me down easy on that one, but that was one that I always wish we could have done.
That would be amazing. Well, Joey, Larry, and Betty, thanks so much for taking the time to visit me today. What's the Story Wishbone? It's not just nostalgia, it's a reminder that children's television can be smart, literary, funny, ambitious, and publicly valuable all at the first time. Guys, go out and see this documentary. I'll be putting all the listings down below. I appreciate you guys taking the time today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.